Welcome back, audience. Welcome to the new one, where we talk about sex, gender to be specific. Nah, sorry to disappoint you. But I won't because I got something interesting to say. I always like to talk about consciousness and the way consciousness work and what can we know by observing consciousness itself of how to play this game of life because it is a game. And in the previous videos, I mentioned a little bit about masculine, feminine, and referred to future as masculine and the past as feminine, projection as masculine, reflection as feminine, void as feminine, divine spark as masculine. So there were a lot of references to different facets of reality as masculine and feminine. So in this video, I want to clarify a little bit more because there are depths to feminine and there are depths to masculine. There are depths, you know? Absolutely. Now, the deepest point, the feminine is this absolute void. You can call it nothingness, but it's not nothingness, it's a pure potential. Okay, it hasn't taken any shape, it's pure potential. Innocence is probably like the best word that we could use because throughout um, our experience in this reality, innocence remains to be the most important thing for the masculine. Okay, and so that's Virgin Mary is another word, void, 0 point. There's a lot of things. Everything starts from this, and in fact, every time that you experience any kind of emotion, the point of it all is to trace it back to this absolute stillness, zero, void, innocence, that luminescence of whatever you want to call it. There's this magic thing. Everything starts from there. That's why Jesus said, seek the kingdom of God and everything else will be added on to you. What did he mean? He didn't say seek God, did he? He said seek the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is that void. And God is that divine spark. At least that's how he used, in his nomenclature. So, because, you see, if you seek God, you separate yourself from God. But if you seek the kingdom of God, you identify yourself with God. And at the same time, you're aware of the existence of the kingdom, of this like galactic cosmic womb from everywhere, where everything stems from. In fact, you are that womb, and everything that it's in your reality is a projection of that thing. So you never separate from it because you are the divine spark and that void. It's part of your consciousness. Okay? And we all share that void and we all share the divine spark. Then from there, we can kind of say that's ultimate feminine, which is divine womb, and then divine spark. Okay? Divine spark is like an initial formation of that potential. And divine spark could have another name, confidence. I know that sometimes we use the word confidence to refer to just like a state of consciousness, but in this case I'm referring this ultimate uh, you know um, form of energy, masculine form of energy, that divine spark. It is like ultimate confidence, really. That divine spark is ultimate confidence. Why? It's because it creates anything that is necessary to be created. So there's no existence of doubt. There's a pure. It's God. It creates anything you want, and it is a part of you. Okay. And you can create anything you want as well. But when I say you, that becomes a little bit complicated because, oh, sorry for this misunderstanding. But let's go from here, let's go into the split into duality. We're talking about like something we call monad, but from there, because there's nothing interesting going on there, it's just pure bliss and peace. There's just nothing interesting going on, right? It needs to take form. It's not gonna disappear as it's taking form. That's why divine spark is not disappearing and innocence is not disappearing. It takes form. It's everything, everything you see. It's that. And as you are in touch with that, you do sense everything as that, if it makes sense. All right, so let's go into duality now, from the singularity, unity, into duality. Boom. And as soon as we split, we get those two phenomena. One phenomena is a projection, which is a masculine energy, as I said before. And then there's a feminine, which is a reflection. It splits into two. And so that creates the mind, poof, and that creates the body, poof, the future, and the past. Two types of facets that are being created, duality, yin and yang, right? So that's also, the body is the feminine, the past, and the future is the masculine mind, okay? And as soon as that happens, the third thing comes into being as well, because there has to be something in between, and that's where the soul comes in. Between the mind and the body, there's a soul, okay? And soul is almost like a mediator. It's neither masculine, neither feminine, or it's where reconciliation of the masculine feminine takes place. This is where like your emotions and alchemy takes place, okay? So now going into a little bit further into this, we see that there's three realities. There's like this emotional and the spirit reality. In the previous video I talked about how aligned emotions is a spirit, and it's not something woo-woo thing. It's a very, very tangible thing. It's when your emotions are aligned, there's the spirit there, which then that governs and takes decisions in your life. And so their soul is to alchemize emotions into the spirit. That's what the soul's pretty much job is. It's reconcile the masculine and the feminine, the future and the past. Okay. Now, when we use the mind, what is mind in the way I describe mind? It is a anything. For example, when you're imagining something, dreaming, having lucid dreams, astral projection, out-of-body experiences, anything that is the mind, which is projection and it's masculine, and you can create anything you want. In a lucid dream, you can just imagine whatever you want and it's there, and it becomes very solid as well. So then within this world of mind, there's also masculine, feminine that's living, even though the overall, in charge energy is masculine, but within that there's also masculine and feminine. And what is that? That is this chaos energy, which is like something that is not concrete. And so, for example, when you're dreaming, something might be blurry, right? It's not really exactly what but then when you focus on something and you want to create something specific, that blurriness, that irregularity just goes and turns into an apple, because you sent the intent for this to become an apple. Pure potential became an apple. This pure potential, this chaos, which may be just like colors, right? And energies, which they don't really have any kind of form, but with your thought, you create it into specific form, which is apple. So now, you can see you manifest an apple within your lucid dream. That is masculine now because it took form, it's solid. And then you can turn it into, again, pure potential, something very blurry, and then imagine like a banana, and then you create a banana, right? If you had a lucid dream, or if you're interested in these kind of things, try it and you'll see exactly how the mind works. From the pure potential, based on your focus, on your intention, because that's what it is over there. There's an intention and allowance. Allowance is like when you want that apple to go back into the blurriness and pure potential. So you just almost like you focus on an apple and you dissolve, and it becomes just pure energy again. And then focus on banana, and there's banana. And the same thing with the entire environment. If you want to teleport from one location to another, that's what you do. First, you have to remove the solidness of your reality into this blurriness potential, and then from there, there's a new reality or environment that pops out, right? So then you can see there's a masculine and feminine working in the mind, but it's a very pure creative process. It has no limits. It has no limits. You can create whatever you want. That's mind. That's real mind. Okay? And through imagination and lucid dreaming, that's how you access your mind. Now, whatever you create in through the mind, the projection is going to be reflected in the body. Okay? Sometimes I'm just playing around and manifesting apples in my hand or bananas or whatever, and then the next day someone decided to buy bunch of bananas, and then I see on my counter like pile of bananas, and I'm like, whoa, it comes to you. Whatever you imagine in the mind, there's some version of that comes to you. Okay. Now, so that's how you identify with the mind. And identifying with the mind or soul or body is not a problem. And I'll tell you in a second why. But going to the body now. In the body, the way you see now, everything has a certain type of shapes and forms. Curves are feminine, straight lines are masculine. Within the solidity of the reality, there's a femininity there, you see? So as you can see, it goes throughout. From the primordial state into the chaos order state, and then the order itself has the feminine structures and the masculine structures. So it's sort of like goes right from the pure potential into something solid that we see right now. You see the flower has curves, and and the color is feminine, and then the pot is straight lines, wood, masculine, providing the structure for the plant to grow. And so this is basically what I'm trying to say. It's throughout. It's always existing, and it's playing masculine and feminine forms. Okay. This is why like the ruggedness is masculine and something that is attractive to feminine, and the softness is what's attractive to the masculine. It lives, those two energies lives throughout. Okay, and takes different shapes. Now, in these spiritual teachings, people say, well, the problem is you identify with your body, or the problem is you identify with your mind, or maybe even the soul. That's the problem. It's absolutely not the problem at all. There's only one problem, and I would describe that one problem is not to feeling and letting all of your emotions flower. This is the only problem that I would describe. This is because if you don't do that, then as a consequence, the pain and pressure is stored, and then in order to cope with that, you will have to create a belief system. Okay? Because you have not felt fully of what is there to feel, and so you create the belief system, and so you go into towards the dark side. So that's the only problem, really. And honestly, nobody ever, like, I was really thinking about it, and I don't think that anyone needs to necessarily go towards that path. Right from the early age, somebody can be taught to feel all the emotions and not block anything, and it's such a simple thing. but that's the how you live from the soul. And if you just don't live from the soul and just the mind and the body, then you create like this, abomination. um, and so yes, we may inherit all these belief systems, absolutely, and these belief systems may, you know, is exactly for us not to really look there. But I, for one, just wanted to destroy all these belief systems and look there. Look, what's there, to look at. And then what I find is that that's exactly how do you live your life. This is where you start with. That's where that this kingdom of God is. The kingdom of God is when you face what is, without words, without interpretations, pure experience as what is. And when you really embracing all your emotions, it's impossible not to be with it. So you let your emotions flower, and that will make sure that there's no pressure or pain being stored, and then your brain using that and creating a virtual entity, right? That's the problem. It's so simple. This is why, like, if you get this, fuck all the psychology, fuck all of that bullshit. It will never ever help you, any of that nonsense. Even if you like get the moment of clarity when someone explains to you, it's like how this all works, and like, oh, it makes sense. Yeah, that's how it works. And then you go back to the same shit again. You still have the same reactions. You still have the same behaviors. Everything is fucking the same. But now you got all this library of psychological knowledge, which is just in a way of things. You don't need any of that, you see? And anything that I'm saying to you is I'm just describing a structure that you can see for yourself in this moment. You can't argue that you have imagination, you have dreams, and there's this mind thing that can create anything from thought, right? You can imagine Apple right now, or like it exists, right? It's not a body, it's the mind. And then you can also see that the sensations in my body. So it's like thought patterns, that's my mind, sensations, that's my body, and emotions and the spirit, which is nothing else but aligned emotion, what it feels like, just like a stream of joy, whatever, or there's 7 of these spirits that you can feel. They all correspond to a certain type of spirit, and that spirit may have the intensity, from a slight joy to ecstasy. That would be the orange color, right? And so I'm not going to get into the colors today, but see what I'm trying to say. And you can feel it in this moment. So you can't, anything that you'll ever experience is the emotions, thought patterns, and sensations. And even when you experience somebody else, you experience them as thought patterns, sensations, and emotions. So therefore, like, it's still you. It's direct experience of, but it's like, well, but this is just another being. But how do you experience another being? You see? You'll never, well, in this case, unless you actually um, uh, somehow enter their body and see from their point of view. But still, even then, you're still gonna be you. You see what I'm trying to say? That's why. Anyway, I don't want to blow your mind too much with this one. I just want to focus on the subject. So, um, and the subject is the the layers of the masculine and feminine. Okay, and how does that help you in life? Well, yes, um, the awareness of your consciousness structure, not the content. I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the primordial structure of consciousness. Because I can tell you all sorts of content things, but that's just going to be another beliefs. I'm just saying that forget about the content. Just find, the reality that you do have emotions, and then sometimes those emotions are running, but you are not looking at them. You are acting from them. But if you start looking at them and letting them flower fully, like maybe this emotion of envy, let it flower completely. And once it's completely, it's going to turn into a spirit. That's it. You let your emotions flower. And then it's totally fine to identify with your mind, your soul, or your body. Because when you're feeling your emotions, you're already identifying with the soul. Or when you're feeling the spirit, identifying with the soul. That's totally fine. Um, the mind, whenever you're more in your mind and whenever you're more imagining stuff and you're not really that active in the physical, you're in your mind. That's totally fine to do that. In fact, mind is where you do get all sorts of fulfillments that physical may not, you know, meet your needs, because you got to recreate the physical in order for it to meet your need. And then lastly, the body. Um, and identify with the body is totally fine too. It's not a problem. Identify with the pain body. That's the problem. But like I said, that doesn't really happen if you just if you face all your emotions and let them flower fully all the way, no matter how uncomfortable they are. Sorry, we'll get some additions here to Laguna. Anyway, um, so you see, and the body seemingly has its own desires. Uh, the mind has its own, and the soul has its own, but they really want the same, like one same thing. And so when you play the game, collaborating with all three, it's amazing experience, and that's how life's supposed to be, you know. Um, and this is why I don't see what the fuck are these spiritual teachers talking about. Stop identifying with your body. It's totally fine to identify with your body. It's super fun to identify with your body. Um, and with the mind or the soul. So, and you see, there might be some talk about, like, is it okay to do this, is it okay, like, the body has its needs, and especially like what's very prevalent is like the sexual body need, right? And if you, like I said, if you face all your emotions, you let them all flower, you're not going to have sex out of that addiction lack reason. But the body still has a need for sex. This is why I don't understand this complete eradication of sex, because sex is the problem. No, addiction to sex might be the problem, which is you get rid of it just by feeling, like when that craving comes in, there's you can face it. There's you will find that, like, you may not face it before, but if you face it like that, it may unravel in some sort of emotion. Poof, and let that emotion flower instead of acting upon it. Poof, and then that disappears, and that becomes like just general state of awesomeness. But the body still has a need. It's a bodily need, not psychological need anymore. Bodily need, which is different. And so this is why you don't punish your body because of some stupid ass belief. Um, you know, body has needs, and um, and as long as body needs are met, it's fine. I don't, like, I've looked at this like, transcending the body and all that stuff. I'm not into that stuff. Why would I want to transcend the body? Why would I want to, you know, be beyond the body? No. I think it's totally fine, and not only fine, it's beautiful to have that challenge that there is. How do you reconcile those two? The body wants something, the heart wants something. How do you reconcile those two? And finding the way to be happy on all the levels. That's the challenge. And And it's totally. Anyway, my philosophy is that I want to be somewhere in between the animal and God. I don't want to rid of my body and just be beyond it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I don't need to eat. I don't need to do anything. I'm so beyond the body. No, I think it's an escapism. Escapism. Yes, body has limits, but that's what it's all about. It's all fun. That's fun. And I don't see how like you can leave your body every night, and so then there's no limits anymore. Why try to fuck with the physical reality and try to? I don't understand. I know some people may be into that type of stuff, but um, I prefer to have these body problems and find a way to resolve. They're just like an adventure for me. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say in the end is that identifying with your soul, identify with your mind, and identify with your body. And and of course, there's this the whole void and divine spark that encompasses the whole thing. You can identify with that too. Each one has its own um, degrees of freedom, actually. Because if you're just abiding in oneness or whatever and just complete blissed out, all right, you know, fair enough. But that's it. What else can you do there? Not much, you see. So you gotta transform that into something else. Then, um, then you may see like, well, what do I want to create with that? And then you need a mind. Identify with the mind. And as soon as you identify with the mind, immediately we're gonna be projecting some need for the body, and then the Trinity comes online. And then you have degrees of freedom within your soul, which is obviously limited within the soul. Then degrees the freedom of the mind, which is limited within the mind, and degrees of freedom within the body, which is limited within the body. And that's how completely and utterly to live your life. All right, peace. See you next one.